And we're live. I got to switch my camera around. Oh, I can't see myself. I got to be able to see myself, see if I'm live. Sorry about that. This is RockSim Live, and you can tell we're live. We include all the mistakes here. So thank you for joining us. It's been 3 weeks since we've had our last one. I think it was at the very beginning of August. I had been on vacation, but now we are back to answer your questions about RockSim, RockSim Pro, or the Launch Visualizer. I do have the chat running right now in YouTube, so go ahead and type in your RockSim questions and we'll be able to answer them today. Yeah, so it's been good to be back. I missed you as well. I'm gonna get situated in my chair. So where have I been? Where have I been? I have been on vacation, and so we did kind of like a week and a half vacation, plus we went to the World Space Modeling Championships in Serbia. So it started off, we went on vacation to Switzerland, spent a few days there. Then we transferred to Serbia, where the World Space Modeling Championships were. We also finished the filming on the Skyward documentary, so I can tell you about that. And then after Serbia, we left on Wednesday morning, and my daughter came back to the United States because she had to go to school. She missed a week and a half of school in college, which is like, you never should be able to do that. And she's in engineering, so yeah, that's really tough. So she had to get back, and so when she came back, my wife and I, we went to London for a few more days of vacation in London. So we got to see 3 different countries in that trip. Actually, we kind of touched into Germany a little bit from Switzerland, but not very far, maybe just a couple miles. It was the road had to go around. So yeah, I didn't tell the rental car company I took the car out of Switzerland. It's kind of like driving into Mexico. You don't tell them. So yeah, so I am back now. We got back on Sunday, so I've been back. Monday was Labor Day, of course, and we were off, but I was, unpacking and getting ready for the week. And so now here we are in the week, end of the week, and we're back to RockSim Live. So that's what I've been doing. What have you been doing while I've been away? Have you been a good boy? So we got a number of people here in the house. We have Curtis Howe from Michigan, and he has a question, so we'll answer that question. We have Guppy Guy. He says, welcome back from Boise. Sturko3. And he says, welcome back, Tim. Alfred Indy says, Curtis, where in Michigan? I am from Michigan. I launched in Saginaw last weekend. Well, that's cool. Curtis Howe says, in Portland, Michigan. He is going to the LK Airport in Clio. And Mark Sell from Parker, Colorado says, hello. So that's the people have checked in so far. And if you're just joining us, go ahead and say hello, and we can recognize you if you want. And if you have questions, that's what we're here for. Put in your RockSim questions so that we can answer those, because that is exactly why we're here. Let me show you my screen. I got to figure out how to use all this software again. There we go. All right, so this is the Apogee website. This is where you're going to find RockSim. We're at apogeerockets.com. When you come here, you'll see this yellow banner bar saying we're having problems with our shipping module on our website. So if you're ordering online, it might give you some crazy shipping costs, but don't worry, because we don't make money on shipping. So what we do is if you get a crazy shipping cost, we refund you the excess shipping back. So you only get charged what it costs us. We don't make money on shipping. Our profit is on our services and our products that we sell, not on shipping. Because we know that shipping, we're trying to keep our shipping costs as low as possible. We're not Amazon. We can't, give you free same-day shipping. We can't give you free shipping at all, unfortunately. Amazon has their own shipping and they can control all the costs. We have to use third-party providers like the post office, FedEx, UPS. So they charge us money, so we have to pass that on. So if you get a crazy shipping cost, don't worry. We're going to refund you back, and you'll get an email saying the money came back. So on our website, you can sign up for our newsletter here. We got this scrolling banner bar here, and I'm looking for the RockSim one. So we have the launch visualizer, and that's actually at rocksim.com, where you can do test launches like you do in RockSim or RockSim Pro, but you don't have to download any software. You can just go online and perform simulations. But in order to design rockets, you're either going to need RockSim or RockSim Pro. So that's the launch visualizer. Here's our newsletter. And I would recommend subscribing to our newsletter because every week we give you a free newsletter or video, and they're how-to. So it's like really good information. We just had a customer that came in earlier this morning, and he was from Connecticut, and he found us through the videos, and then he watched the first one and then a whole bunch more. And these are what we send out in our newsletter. And they are, people rave about them. As bad as I am on camera, the information is rock solid. You're going to get good information. Next week, we have a newsletter. This past Tuesday, it was a video. So we alternate. 1 week is video, 1 week's a newsletter. So be sure to sign up for that so you don't miss anything. And then here's the RockSim. This is where you can download it and get more information. So if you just click on that banner, it'll take you to the RockSim page. You can see we're charging $50 for it. And it has videos on what it does, what the cool things you can do. And if you want to learn more, go to the how-to and guides. Come down here to software, and then go over here to these RockSim video tutorials here on the right-hand column. That's kind of like the official how to get started. And I always direct people to there to get started. What we do here in RockSim Live is answer any specific questions that you don't think are answered in those videos. And we can help you out here. These are the more advanced topics usually. Because RockSim can do so much, and people want to be able to do so much. So that's what these video tutorials are. Those are the beginner ones. We're doing RockSim Live training, which is right here. You can see all of our past archive of videos. RockSim Pro has some additional videos because it's a different software. Where RockSim is 3 degrees of freedom, which means the rocket can travel up and down, so that's one. It can also travel with the wind or against the wind. And then it can also pitch into the wind or against the wind. So those are 3 degrees of freedom. Now RockSim Pro has 3 additional ones on top of that. And that is, the rocket can transverse crosswind as well as upwind, downwind. So you can go crosswind, and it can yaw. So that's crosswind direction. And then it can also roll on its axis as it's going up. So that gives you a more complete picture of what your rocket is doing. I love RockSim Pro. It's like when I'm doing my own simulations, I'm always using RockSim Pro. RockSim is great. But I want that extra detail, and it can do a lot more besides that, but that's the basic stuff. So If you're brand new, you can see the system requirements and the version history right here. I'm going to, if I don't get a lot of questions, I'm probably going to play with one of the newer versions that we're working on so you can kind of get an idea of what's coming down the pike. But first, let's go to the questions. So the first question was Curtis Howe, and he says, where should an ejection baffle be placed, and how is it shown in RockSim? So I need a rocket that has a baffle in it. So let me go to the shop, and then I'm going to go here through view the rockets by manufacturer, and I want to see the Apogee. I'm going to just get a list of these and see if I find one here with the baffle in it. Maybe the Hermes Kronos. I think the Kronos has a baffle in it. So let me open up RockSim. That's RockSim Pro. I want RockSim. Okay, so here's RockSim. So I'm going to open the design, and I'm going to look for the Kronos. So the Kronos may or may not be in your own design folders. It's a relatively new kit. It's only a couple of years old. And I want to see, I'm going down to the Ks. There it is, Kronos. Okay, Kronos rocket, click open. Okay, so hopefully this has a baffle in it. Okay, so this is what the Kronos rocket looks like. This is a, how big in diameter is this? This is, I think, a 3-inch rocket. My computer's running slow. I really need to get a new computer, but it's just not the time to get one yet. Okay, so this definitely is a 3-inch rocket, and I believe right here is a baffle. Let me check the website, double check, make sure that the Kronos has a baffle in it. So if I click on the Kronos, so this gives you an idea of how you can put a baffle in RockSim. Let me see. So here's the size of the rocket. Yes, it does have a baffle because it has these discs right here. So that is these discs plus this tube coupler create a baffle. And we kind of do double duty on the baffle. It acts as a tube coupler to join the tubes together. And since we have that already in there, we said, hey, why don't we just put the bulkheads on it and make it a baffle? And then you don't have to worry so much about using wadding. So clicking through these things here, there's the decal. So this is the baffle. It has 2 discs and a tube coupler. So in RockSim, how we put it in, so there's 2 ways to do it. This is, and this particular rocket, the Kronos, and like I say, if you want to look at the Kronos, and if it's not already in your RockSim, you can download the RockSim file. Ooh, we sold that last one. Yesterday there was a kit here. I was building parts for it yesterday. That's how I know. If you come over here to the RockSim file, this is a button bar. If you just click on the RockSim file, it'll take you down to the bottom of the page. And this is where you'll actually download the RockSim file for the Kronos. So download that and then follow along. And if you're watching on replay, you can pause here, download that, load it into RockSim, and then you'll see what I'm seeing here on my screen. So the baffle is this part here. So this is the coupler, and I'm going to change the color of it so you can see it more easily. And make the color, the 2D color, right now it's blue. Let's make it purple. Okay, so there's the coupler, right here. And then on the ends of the coupler, we have 2 bulkheads. So let me open up those bulkheads. You can actually click on them right here and you see the forward baffle disc. And then if you click on the back one, we have the aft baffle disc. And I'll maybe change the color of one of them here so you can see it more easily. Let's make this one greenish. Okay, so there's that forward baffle. And now this baffle, if we look at it, we have this. It's showing as a solid bulkhead, but in reality, it has holes cut through it. Now, if you want to get really nitpicky, you can put holes in it. And basically what that does is it just takes out some of the weight of that bulkhead disc. So if you want to, let me go back here to the screen. Okay, so here is the bulkheads. This one right here with the smaller holes on the inside, that's the aft bulkhead, and this is the forward bulkhead. And how do I know the difference? Well, the forward bulkhead has a hole in it for an eye bolt, so that we can attach the parachute and the shock cord to that eye bolt. So that's going to be in the front. This is going to be in the back. So now what is the weight of this bulkhead disc with the holes in it? Well, you can weigh it, and you can either use a mass override or you can put a hole in it to account for the weight that has been pulled out of the rocket. Personally, I just use a mass override. It's just so much faster. But if you wanted to take out some weight, you can give it an ID. Maybe we'll call it, 0.75 inches. And you'll notice right here is the calculated mass of this bulkhead disc. It's 17.85. If I leave it with no hole in it, it jumps up to 19. So it knocked off 2 grams by putting a hole in it. So if that's important to you, that 2 grams, go ahead and do it. But this rocket right now is 660 grams. So I just kind of ignore that weight loss because it's minuscule. It's just not going to really affect the flight because the weight difference is so small. But if you're really nitpicky about it, you can do that. So I'm going to click OK. So that's the hard way of putting a bulkhead in. The easy way is build the bulkhead in real life. Your coupler, your bulkhead discs with the eye bolt and the nuts on the eye bolt. Then weigh it and then find out what the weight is. So let's say the weight was 60 grams. So the easy way to do it, once you have that weight, is you can add a component into the rocket. We can add, you got to figure out where you're going to put it. And I'll say I'm going to put it right here in this tube. And then I'm going to add a mass object. Because it's on the inside of the rocket, it doesn't affect the aerodynamics. The only thing it affects is the weight of the rocket and where that weight is located inside the rocket. And you can do that with a mass object. It's just a point of mass in the rocket. So it always looks in the database first, so that's what this is. So I'm going to cancel out of that. So right now, it put the mass object right here. I'm going to say, hey, I need that mass to be back here. So I'm going to slide it back to there. And if you can't get it far enough back, you can force it by typing in a bigger number. So I'll just put 24 inches and look, it moved right back there. But I'm going to leave it right here about 18 inches. And then you got to give it the mass. And like I said, let's say you weighed it, and it was 60 grams. So you just type in 60 right there. And as soon as you hit the tab key, watch the center of gravity. this is going to shift because of that new mass. So let's say hit the tab, and it didn't move. Must have already moved. All right, so anyway, so that's the easy way. Just put a mass object in the rocket. Because other than the weight of the rocket, it doesn't affect the flight. So I'm going to cancel out of this because I don't really need the mass object. So save my changes? No. So that's how you do a mass object. It's pretty simple. Alfred Indy says, oh, Fat Bank is here, and he says, hello from Texas. Curtis House says, I belong to SCORE in Pueblo, Colorado. So do I. We're having a launch tomorrow. See you there, Curtis. Guppy's guy says, when I weigh a part and adjust mass, I don't see a change. How about a walkthrough of best practices? Okay, so let's start. I'll do with a nose cone. So I'm going to start a brand new design, and he's talking about weighing a part. So a nose cone is a part, so I can do that. Do I want to save my changes? No. Okay, so I'm going to start with a nose cone. And it always looks in the database. So let's find a nose cone. PNC 66. So here's a nose cone. Okay, so, and he says, when I weigh a part and adjust the mass, I don't see a change. Okay, so from the database, this part weighs 63 grams. So when he adjusts the weight, there's two ways to adjust the weight. One is to physically change the part. For example, this has a wall thickness of 0.047. And if I watch this number down here, 63.14, let's make this like 0.07, then hit the tab, and you'll see it jump to 92.374. So that is one way to adjust the part, is to just changing the physical aspects. I could change the material. I can make it, let's go something heavy, like G10 fiberglass. So now it jumped to 167 because fiberglass has a higher density. So, so you see that the mass has changed just by changing that. The other thing you'll notice is the center of gravity didn't change. And the reason for that is because that is based on the volume of the item and where the centroid is. Let me see if I change it from a hollow to a solid, if that changes the location. Yeah, that changes the location because now we have more mass back here in the nose cone. When it's hollow, there's less mass back here, so the center of gravity moves forward on the rocket. So that is the first way to adjust the mass and the center of gravity location. If you're changing just the parameters, you really can't adjust the center of gravity too much because RockSim is calculating it. The way to change the location of where it balances, that center of gravity, you have to use a mass override. And this is the second way of adjusting the mass of a component. So what you'll do is you'll go to mass override right here on this tab. Right now, it says this little box right here in the corner that says use the mass and the CG information below. And what that does is it ignores the calculated mass and the center of gravity location. So here is the calculated. This is what RockSim calculates based on the shape and the density of the material. But I can override that. So I'm going to say, let's make this nose cone 57 grams, and I want to move the center of gravity. So now we need to know where that center of gravity is. So you're going to take your nose cone and you're going to balance it on your finger so it just sits there. And then you're going to measure from the very tip to where it balances. And that is your CG location. So let's say it balances at 8 inches. So I got 8 inches right here. And as soon as I hit the tab key, it should have moved. Oh, I didn't check the box. Oh, there it goes. Then it moved. You got to check that box that says use the mass that's right here. So at this point, now I have adjusted the CG location as well as the overall mass. Now what you can't change is the center of pressure location, because that is based on the shape, the outside shape that the air flows over. The only way to change that is to change the shape. So if I go from an ogive to an elliptical, you'll see that the center of pressure has moved, but the nose cone has also changed shape. So the center of pressure is determined by the shape, where the center of gravity and the mass is determined by not only the shape or the volume, but also the density of the material. And it doesn't really affect the center of pressure. Okay. So hopefully that answered your question. You can do that with any component that you make in the rocket. Nose cones, body tubes, centering rings, fins, launch lugs, except for parachutes, because parachutes don't have a center of pressure location. Okay, Sturko3 says, an RC rocket glider. I see people use a D12-0 booster, but isn't there a charge which still lights a second stage that is going to damage the glider, as an Estes Sweet V is located inside cockpit servos? And the answer is yes, you are absolutely right. If you don't do something with that ejection charge, it's going to fry whatever's on the inside of the rocket. So what people normally do, and this is technically against the safety code because you're modifying a rocket engine. And what you'll do is you'll take that motor and pour epoxy in the top so it caps off so that heat cannot come forward. So yet that's what you would use. You want to use the D12-3 or D12-0, but you want to cap it off. They used to sell a plugged motor. I think it was a D11P. But I don't think they currently sell a plugged motor in that size. But if there was a plugged motor, that's what you'd want to use. So you are absolutely right. Doug A says, greetings from Huntsville. Cool. Johan is here. He says, I think I found a way to make fins. This is a teaser. Well, cool. He's teasing me. Alfred Indy, he's a number 2 fan, says, I used Apogee baffle in a different rocket. I used a coupler and the mass weight of the parts. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's kind of like what I explained. Johan says, I think I also came up a way to make transparent canopies. Won't tell that either. He's being a tease. And Purple Haze says, David from Michigan here. Glad to see you back, Tim. All right. Well, that's all we have so far. So keep sending those questions in. So while you're doing that, this is my time to play. So what I'm going to play with is RockSim Pro, the new version. Oops, I clicked the wrong thing. Click that one. Okay, so here is the new version of RockSim Pro. This is version 4.2 4.3 F7. Let me go to the website and tell you what the current version is that everybody's using. How-to and guides, software, version history. Okay, so everybody else is using 4.2.3 F2. So F7, the F number is the number that the programmer gives me that's different. You know, like all the changes that him and I see on a daily basis if he releases a new one. So basically it's the same version, but has been updated 5 times. So I've gone 5 changes that you currently don't have. And we're getting ready. Let's see. So we can compare 2 flight profiles, replay a flight profile. Yeah, so there's a lot of new stuff in version 4 that you don't have yet. And I think like some of them I've talked about before. For example, the fins can be canted. Oh, yeah, we also this new version, we've talked about here on RockSim Live before about the fin flutter speed. So it will calculate at what speed those fins might start vibrating. So you don't want to do that. So that's a new feature that we've talked about. We've also talked about, enabling the cant angle changes. So this lets you adjust the fin cant angle during flight. So if the rocket takes off, you could say at 3 seconds into the flight, let's flip the fins out. And this could be good for, you know, like a TARC or the ARC contest where you can deploy drag brakes. This is kind of like what you would do is you want it to deploy at a certain time. So this is affecting the aerodynamics of the rocket in flight, which is something we've never been able to do before. You know, it can allow you to do some really cool things. I think we tried to get it to do a glider, and I don't know if he's fixed the part that I saw. He was working on it. But the other thing is, the big thing is that we are all going to make RockSim Pro ad supported. So what does that mean, ad supported? Well, there's a lot of software out there that is ad supported. So instead of you buying the software, we sell ads in the software to other people that want to get your eyeballs. So by doing ad supported, we can get the software into more people's hands. And that's the whole purpose. Is like RockSim Pro is so cool. It's like, I don't know why people are not using it. And so I want to get people to use it. And the only way to give to people to use it is to make it free for the user. But it does have a cost. And the cost is you're going to see ads. So for example, if I run a simulation, as soon as I click the launch button, an ad pops up and you got to watch the ad, and you got to watch it for 3 more seconds. And then at that point, it's going to run the simulation and give me the results back. So that is the downside, but it's an upside because it's going to allow everybody to use RockSim Pro for free. And that's what we wanted to get it out there. Because it has so much functionality and it's so cool. Like seeing the launch visualizer, like I said before, getting that extra information about the rocket's flight is so valuable. So what we're seeing right now is the rocket sitting on the pad, and half the pad is underground because I didn't set the altitude right. But if I zoom out, you can see that this rocket is sitting on a road, and you keep zooming out, and I'm not sure exactly where this is located. Now, if I go 2D, so the rocket is right here in the middle of the screen, but if I keep zooming out, I can see mountains over here. Okay, so it's kind of in that area of the United States, which is cool. So this is a close-up view right now of the rocket, looking straight down on it. This is the rocket there. And if I hit the home button, it'll zoom me back in. All right, so, and then if I click launch, then we can see the rocket take off, and it's going pretty much straight up. It's arcing over a little bit. And then the parachute comes out, and it's coming back down. And I'll just zoom the time all the way here to the end. And yeah, so that is the trajectory. I'm just zooming out. It went pretty high. Where did it go? What motor did I have it? No, because here's the launch point right here. So the distance where the rocket landed is 290.11 feet. So that's from here to here. So I don't know how high it went, but it probably went like a good 1,000 feet. I can figure that out just by backing up to where the apogee point is, or if I'm really curious, I can just close it here. 1,233 feet. Yes, cool. Doug A asks, how was the FAI competition? Do you use RockSim simulations for your competition designs? And the answer is yes, of course we use RockSim simulations. Don't leave home without it. In fact, what I did was on the launch visualizer, if you go to www.rocksim.com, and it's going to load the page. I'll show you what I did was I actually put the launch site of the contest for the World Championships in the launch visualizer, so that not only could I use it to run my simulations, but the rest of the team could do it as well. Okay, so here's the rocket, and if I go here, and if I choose a launch site, and I believe if I just scroll down all the way to the bottom, Spaceport.com, okay, where are you? 25 IREC. Oh, here it is right here. FAI site in Serbia. Uradak, Serbia. So let's run a simulation really quick. Select in simulation for the engine to run. So choose an engine. I just pick a, doesn't matter what I'm picking, I'm just grabbing something. So I can run a simulation so I can show you that launch site. Okay, so it's thinking about it. Okay, so here's the rocket sitting on the pad. Let me go to a 2D view looking straight down on the rocket, and north is straight up. And I'm trying to, this was a field. It was like there was no roads in this field. Okay, so here is Aradak. That's the Cyrillic spelling of Aradak. We stayed in Zenjeren. That's where our hotel was. Let me see if I can find the hotel. I'm looking for like the main downtown area of the hotel. Right there. I think that's it. So this building right here was our hotel. It's actually this white building. My room on this hotel was right here. And how do I know? Because I was looking out this alley right here. And somewhere along this alley was a nightclub. And on Friday and Saturday night, they had the beat going. And the noise hit my window dead on. And Friday night and Saturday night, we didn't get much sleep because we were listening to disco music from some bar down this road. But right here is like the city square, and this is their main street. And their town hall, they call it the home hall or something like that. It was right here. There was a big church right there. And we walked around the city a little bit down in this area. So that's kind of like where we stayed. It's an older town, and I can say that I don't need to go back. There was a big brand new tire factory that they just built outside of town somewhere, and it should be big enough to where you can see it. I bet it's like, it was massive. I can't find it, but it was brand new. It was built by the Chinese. The Chinese are dumping money into Serbia. They're building roads and bridges. It's part of what China calls their Belt and Road. And it has advantages and disadvantages, and the people of Serbia kind of don't like it. But it allows them to put money into their infrastructure. But anyway, so our launch field here, it was approximately, I'm just trying to, there's no trees, there's nothing out here. The only thing that gives me a clue of to where we were launching was all these fields right here, because these fields they were growing corn, soybeans, sunflowers, and it was just a nightmare. Anything that landed in this field was difficult to retrieve. And the parachute duration day, yeah, they were landing there. And then on helicopter day, the wind changed, and then everything was landing over here on this side. So we were kind of like, I was looking at these roads right here. These are just kind of like little dirt patches. And, I'm thinking that our launch site was somewhere in here. But it was a beautiful launch site, nice and flat. Like very gently rolling hills, so you couldn't get lost. You could see the launch. If you got out here in the corn, you could always find your way back. There was some drainage ditches, and maybe this is one of them. That was really deep. I mean, typically when you think of drainage ditch in a field, maybe 4 or 5 feet deep. This thing was like 20 feet deep and 20, 30 feet wide. You get down on the bottom of there, and it's a hard climb getting back out. And I did that a couple of times. when I was on recovery. Our flights, you're probably wondering, how did my daughter do? Not so good. We just had nose cones that separated from the rocket, and that gets you a DQ. We were using European motors, so we didn't get to practice as much as we'd want to figure out how to dial in the amount of black powder we needed to eject the nose cone. And so we had one flight, we blew the nose cone off, and so we cut back on the black powder, and then we didn't have enough to get the nose cone off the rocket. So that was helicopter duration. And then streamer duration, she also had one where she blew the nose cone off, and that gets you a DQ, as I said. And then she was only in 2 events, so it is what it is. We learned a lesson, and the lesson is, when you practice, measure out the amount of black powder that you need to successfully blow the nose cone off and get the recovery device out, but not so hard that it separates the nose cone from the rocket. These rockets that we're using are like, our rockets weighed under 5 grams. Nose cone, body tube, and fins. That was the weight of the rocket. The streamer that we were using was another 5 grams. So without the rocket motor, the whole rocket with the streamer was 10 grams, under 10 grams. And then, so they were very light, very thin. You pick these things up. I always tell people when they pick up one of our contest rockets, I say, you can hold it, just don't squeeze. Because it's thinner than paper. And they're made out of carbon fiber and epoxy. So this is Zenerzrin. Can't pronounce it. We stayed also 2 nights in Belgrade, one on the front end and one on the back end, because that's where we flew out of. Belgrade they were having some protests going on where the people blocked the road. So their downtown is, we got on the bus, and our bus had to turn around right about here because the protesters blocked the bridge across. This is the Danube. And this is like a little tributary that goes into it. They blocked this bridge. You can see there's only like a couple of bridges across here. They blocked it, and they just shut down the whole city. So that's kind of like what our experience was. I'm going to do a video, kind of like a travel log of what our holiday was like, what the championships was like. We also did the Skyward documentary. And if you followed our website, go back here to Apogee. If you go back to our homepage, you can kind of read about it. Right, if you scroll down right here, called this is the Skyward document, a bit of what's going on with this Skyward documentary. They were following Ashley and I going through the contest, and they wanted us to win because it would have made a great ending, but we didn't win. So, that's real life. It's a real life documentary. But Ashley got her start in rocketry when she was a little girl. Now she's a junior in college studying engineering. And the documentary crew, all these 3 people, they followed us to Serbia, and they were filming constantly. We were like celebrities among the group of Americans. But, we didn't, that and 50 cents wouldn't give you a cup of coffee. Anyway. Alfred Indy says, I'm sorry to say it sounds like a stressful place to be during a competition launch. Yeah, a rocket launch is a rocket launch. So once we're out on the field and you're amongst everybody else, it's just a rocket launch and it's just fun. That's the fun part, is to launch rockets in another country. I'm going to try to click over here. Yeah, so launching rockets in another country is fun, and all the people that you meet, they're great people. I was talking with the Chinese, the Bulgarians, I didn't see the Italians. Germany wasn't there. The British were there. The Spaniards were there. There's a lot of countries there. Japan was there. And if you're watching Johan, get a team together. The next one's going to be in Poland. So that's in 2 years. So in 2027, get a team together and get over there to Poland and let's launch rockets together. So that's the fun part. And then seeing other parts of the world, then it's like a vacation. And then, how much do you enjoy your vacation? So, we visited Switzerland. Switzerland is a lot like Colorado. Their mountains are just as high as our mountains, 14,000 feet. I think they got a 15,000 footer there. But the difference between Colorado and Switzerland is they get a lot more rain in Switzerland. In fact, somebody told me they get as much rain as Seattle, Washington gets. So it's really green. Where Colorado, we're dry, and our mountains are more brown. Theirs are green, except for the top where, you're above timberline and nothing's growing anyway. Although the grass on the tops is green during the summer. It was hot in Switzerland. It was not so bad in Serbia. Serbia was warm, but not unbearable. Switzerland was hot. And what made it bad was nobody in Switzerland has air conditioning, because normally you don't need it. It's kind of like Colorado. Like our home didn't have air conditioning. We only got air conditioning this summer. And we only turned it on for maybe, 3 weeks out of the summer, because you just don't need it. We haven't turned it on since we've been back in the country. Right now it's like 56 degrees outside because we have an overcast day. And tomorrow is going to be in the 70s and we don't need it then. But Switzerland, they were hot and nobody has air conditioning. So it was really hard to sleep at night because we had to open the windows to try to get a breeze coming through. And there was no breeze, but all we got was exhaust because we were on a major street and there was a lot of noise. So it wasn't good sleeping in Switzerland, but it was beautiful. It was crowded too. It's a tourist destination, more so than Colorado, because they get a lot of international visitors, because there's so many countries that are around Switzerland. There's a ton of people from all over the world there. So there's good things and bad things about any vacation. I enjoyed it, but I am really glad to be back. The comforts of the United States, you don't realize how good we have it until you go over there. Even countries that are westernized, like Switzerland and London, it's kind of like Texas. In the saying goes, everything's bigger in Texas. Well, everything is bigger in the United States. And then you go to Texas, and it's even bigger than that. But it's like, there's room to park a car. If you go into a parking garage, you can maneuver your way around. But in Europe, you go into a parking garage, and it's like really tight. And now I won't tell you my experience with parking garages. Just going back to our chat, Mark Sells says, is there a way to optimize fin design other than trial and error? Is 3 larger fins versus 4 or even 6 smaller fins? Well, optimizing. So The optimum is 3 fins because that has lower drag than 4 fins. And at that point, now you're saying, okay, can I make my rocket stable with 3 fins versus 4 fins? And I can guarantee you, you can make it stable with 3 fins. And so now it's like, okay, like this rocket right here, 4-fin rocket. So, and it's 3.0. So that means gravity and the center of pressure is 3 times the diameter of this tube. And if I make it a 3-fin rocket, why is it showing me that? So if I change it to 3 fins, okay, so now my margin is smaller. The center of pressure moved forward a little bit. And also the center of gravity moved forward. The center of gravity moved forward because there's less weight in the back with 3 fins. So they both moved forward, but the center of pressure moved a little bit further forward. So that's why that moved forward. But it's still massively overstable. Typically you want around a 1. So, maybe 1 to 1.5 is kind of like a good ball. You can, so basically at this point, how do you get, and basically what you do is you make the fins narrower. These fins are plan point fins. So to make it narrower, I'd have to grab this point here and then grab this point here. Okay, so I made it smaller, and now you can see my margin is getting close to that area. So I've pretty much optimized it as much as I'm willing to, because I don't want that margin to get too much smaller. Because if you make your fins, because basically to optimize, what you're saying is I want to make the fins as small as possible. But if you make them too small, now your rocket may become unstable. Click OK here. And we do a launch. Oh, I got to wait my 10 seconds. And if you want to buy ads in RockSim, come talk to me. I'll sell you an ad. So, the previous launch, we went 1,233 feet. Now by reducing the size of the fins and making it from 4 to 3, I've got 1,352. So I've added another 20 feet. That's not a lot. So proportionally, you could spend a lot of time trying to optimize. But at some point, the amount of effort you put into them, it's going to take a lot of effort for, the squeeze is greater than the juice that you're getting. In the competition rockets that we built, we do optimize the fins. And I was, I want big fins because I want it rock stable, but I want them to weigh as little as possible. So our fins had a balsa wood core, but I took 1/32 inch balsa wood. So it's kind of like as thin as the balsa wood you can get. And then I sanded it even thinner. And then it was so thin it was translucent. But at that point, it's so weak, it wouldn't last. So what I had to do was to laminate it with skins on the outside. And the skins that we use are carbon fiber. And if you're interested in it, I did a newsletter article about it somewhere a couple of years ago. So in the last year, the only thing that basically I got light as I can make them, but now I got the surface finish a little bit smoother on the outside. So hopefully the drag went down. I can't measure it, I did do some flight tests with an altimeter, and that seems to be, I got them as good as I'm going to get them. I'm getting this error message that's popping up that says YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. So I won't move around as much. Guppy guy. Ooh. Now there are a whole bunch of, now that we're at 3 o'clock, there's a whole bunch of questions that came in. Johan says, how to construct barometric measurement hole. Not how to drill it, but what to keep in mind and how to place it. Okay. I got to bring up the website. Let's close out this one here. Okay, on the Apogee website, I'll show you where to go, Johan, to answer the question. So go to How To and Guides, come down here to PicoFlight Newsletter, go over here to All Newsletters, and then on this page, this is a listing of all the newsletters that we've done. So again, subscribe to the newsletter. But if you do a find on this page, I'm going to type in vent. Let me type in hole. How to repair. I type in hole, cutting spill holes, pressure relief holes. Okay. That's one of them. There was a different article. It didn't come under vent. Here we go, 15. Okay, altimeter venting right here. Newsletter 543. Okay, so this was written by Bernard Crawley Jr. And he took a rocket like this, and he put altimeters in each section of the rocket, and he varied the diameter and the location of the vent holes in the altimeter bay. And so I'll let you read it. I don't want to give it away. Come to our website and read it. It's free. It's absolutely free. So that's newsletter 543. So to get there, go to How To and Guides. Come down here to PicoFlight Newsletter. Then come over here to All Newsletters. And then when you get here, they're all listed. So just keep scrolling down to get to 523 or 543. Must be 543. Yeah, altimeter venting right here. So that's how you get to that newsletter. Guppy Guy says, I'm designing a BT-60 with 29 millimeter. Simulation says almost 900 miles per hour. That would be supersonic. Yeah, it depends on what motor you're using. If you're using like an F10 29 millimeter, you're not going to go supersonic. But with the right motor, yeah, you could. That's the cool thing about rocketry is it's like the cheapest way to go supersonic of any hobby in the world. Guppy Guy says, does the center pressure change at supersonic speed? And the answer is yes. Does RockSim calculate it? No, because it's too hard. Alfred Indy say, oh, I already said that one. Johan says, oh yes, forgot about the newsletters. I think that's all the questions. Oh, Ron's Rocket says, heading to Black Rock, Nevada this weekend for Arliss and Express. Oh, I wish I could be there with you. That would be so cool. Yeah, we missed out on Airfest, and now I'm missing out on Arliss and Express. That's a competition for universities, and I've always wanted to go to that event. Okay, We've gone well past our allotted time as usual. So thank you for being here. We will be back again next week. So if you have questions, save them up and bring them to us. If you're watching on replay, you can email us those questions through our website. Just use the contact form on our website, and you can ask the questions for RockSim Live there, and we'll answer them next week. So again, thank you for being here. I'm going to give you a countdown because we're launching tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be a great day for launching. So in 5, 4,